I hate myself every single day. I feel like I don't deserve the chance to be with my family and friends.
So you could have taken a position of cover and concealment. You could have called for help on your radio, and you could have had the cavalry there in 2 minutes.
I could have.
You could have had SWAT mobilized.
They could have.
You could have had K-9 mobilized.
They could have also.
Right. And had you done any one of those things, Mr. Jean would probably be alive today. Right?
Yes, sir.
Meanwhile, it was an emotional day today in the Amber Guyger trial as the former Dallas police officer took the stand in her own defense.
I hate myself every single day. I feel like I don't deserve the chance to be with my family and friends.
CBS 11's Shady Miles joins us live from the Dallas County Courthouse where the defense testimony continues. Shady, a very emotional day there.
Certainly was, Gilma. There were no visible reactions from jurors during Amber Guyger's 3+ hours in the witness stand. The former officer, for the very first time, offered her version of what happened and this tearful apology.
I feel like a terrible person. I feel like a piece of crap. I hate it. I hate that I have to live with this every single day of my life. And I ask God for forgiveness, and I hate myself every single day. I feel like I don't deserve the chance to be with my family and friends. I wish he was the one with the gun that killed me. I never wanted to take an innocent person's life.
Amber Guyger started her testimony talking about her dream of being a police officer so she could help people. But soon she was asked about the events of September 6, 2018, inside the Southside Flats apartment building. She told the jury what we already know, that she parked on the 4th floor instead of the 3rd floor. She showed the 3 different bags, including an armored vest she was carrying that she says caused her to overlook the red doormat outside Jean's apartment. She says she didn't notice her key not working because the door was cracked open. Guyger then insisted she yelled, "Let me see your hands," twice before shooting Jean, who she says appeared as a silhouette coming at her from the back of the apartment. After realizing her mistake, Guyger says she had to leave Jean alone in the apartment while calling 911 because she didn't know where she was. She claims she tried, quote, a little CPR on Jean as he was bleeding to death. But under cross-examination, prosecutors grilled her on why she didn't do more to save the man's life or consider just backing away from the apartment and taking cover.
Why couldn't you have given him full, undivided, and proper attention?
I was still on the phone with...
You can put the phone on speakerphone, ma'am.
I had so much stuff racing through my head.
At one point, the judge called a recess because Guyger was breaking down on the stand. How this apology and her explanations will play with the jury is something we'll know in the coming days. The trial will continue tomorrow, the judge says, because the jury is sequestered. Live in Dallas, J.D. Miles, CBS 11 News.
All right, J.D., thank you very much. As you can imagine, the interest level for this case surged inside the Crowley Courthouse when Guyger's testimony began earlier today. Our Steve Pickett live now inside the Crowley Courthouse with more on that. Steve?
It was a sight to see to be here in this building today. I can tell you, Ken, in courtrooms and offices, even in elevators, the focus of so much attention was that testimony from Amber Guyger. So many people watching it in this particular fashion. Take a look at what we found on virtually every floor of this building. Lawyers, clients, security, bailiffs, judges, yes, the media, all watching and listening to the testimony of the former police officer accused of murder in the death of her neighbor. Hundreds were watching on cell phones or laptops. The courthouse internet system here, according to personnel, was programmed to actually block all news sites because so many people were trying to watch the case on work computers. It was simply overloading the system. Those that were watching here in these hallways and other locations, they said specifically they wanted to hear Guyger's testimony.
I believe it's a tragic accident. That's what I believe. I don't think she intentionally murdered anybody.
It was a bad move. There could have been other things she could have did. taser, pepper spray, something.
Yes, sir.
Why react and pull your gun out?
Those kinds of opinions, they vary throughout this building today from the top floor to the bottom. We saw people with those cell phones in their hands finding the way to watch that testimony from that former officer. Reporting live, Steve Pickett, CBS 11 News.
You know, there has been a question hanging over this case for the better part of a year. A lot of you have been asking it, and we actually got an answer today. I want to get over to Tanya Iser. You have been on Facebook Live all day. You watched just about every minute of this trial today. What did we learn about how Amber Guyger got into his apartment?
Well, let me first of all start by, remember, right after this all happened, there was a video that circulated on Facebook that showed that apartment complex, and then if you shut the door, that it would just slam shut. Okay, so people said, well, how did she get in the apartment? Well, today we learned that there was a malfunction with this door, that the strike plate had bowed out, and so the door didn't latch. So when she put her key fob on it, it just opened.
It pushed
open, yeah. So
open.
she was able to open it. So that's how she got in. Now we have the answer to that.
All right, that was a key point, and a lot of people, as you said, had speculated on that for so many months, and had wondered how that could be.
And now we know the answer.
All right, Tanya, thank you. I know you'll be back at it again tomorrow. Also want to talk to you a little bit, big picture, what we saw outside the courthouse, even before the trial got started. Dozens of community members and pastors coming together just outside the courthouse. They're saying and telling us they want to focus attention on Botham Jean's life and also obviously pray and try to support his family. We're going to be covering every minute of this trial. We have experts breaking down all the legal maneuvers. So whatever platform you use, we will have the trial live on our WFAA pages, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and of course, WFAA.com. You can also get notifications and watch in the brand new WFAA app. Just a heads up, iPhone users, you need to delete the old app and download the new one. Only takes about 20-30 seconds. Android users, a little bit easier for you. All you have to do is update the app. So again, a lot of information coming out of today, both from the opening statements and the testimony we heard. Hope you'll join us back here at 10 o'clock as we try to put some of this information into context and to leave you a little bit smarter about what went on today.
New developments in that dramatic murder trial underway in Dallas. We're now seeing body cam video from the night a police officer killed her neighbor, claiming she mistook his apartment for her own. Marcus Moore is in Dallas with the latest. Good morning, Marcus.
Well, Michael, good morning. Jurors watched this dramatic video, this chilling body cam video that shows officers in their desperate scramble to reach the 4th floor of the Southside Flats in Dallas. It's the night Amber Guyger shot 26-year-old Botham Shem Jean. For the first time, jurors and the public are seeing the chaos of that night in real time. Officers sprinting down a long hallway and finding a distressed Amber Guyger. At the time, Guyger was a fellow officer, taking first responders to her fatally injured neighbor. Several officers immediately taking turns performing CPR, trying desperately to save Jean. But prosecutors are seemingly using other videos to suggest Guyger received preferential treatment from her colleagues.
She's hugging somebody now?
Yes.
At one point, allowed to sit in a patrol car, at times looking at her phone as Jean is rushed to the hospital where he died. Guyger's attorneys say she mistakenly went to the wrong floor of her apartment building after an almost 14-hour workday. When she walked into what she thought was her home, she says she believes Jean was an intruder and opened fire. But prosecutors spent day 2 of the trial trying to portray Guyger as reckless, pressing one responding officer about the protocol when an officer believes there's a burglary in progress.
What do you do?
You cover and concealment.
Is that because of the sanctity of human life?
Yes, sir.
And we expect another busy day in trial as prosecutors could potentially call more neighbors to testify about what they saw and heard, and also forensics experts. Robin?
A lot of people are watching this case. All right, Marcus.
The state has rested its case in the murder trial of Amber Guyger. The former Dallas police officer's defense team will begin presenting its case tomorrow. CBS 11's JD Miles joins us live from the Dallas County Courthouse with more on the final day of prosecution testimony. JD?
Well, prosecutors wrapped up their case focusing on a couple of things. First, telltale signs around the apartment building that Amber Guyger missed, but prosecutors say were too obvious, showing where she was to forgive her actions. Second, her decision to use a gun if she really thought she was confronting an actual intruder.
Generally, does it go to the right and back?
A series of crime scene experts were among the last prosecution witnesses to take the stand against Amber Guyger. Photos of both Botham Jean's and Guyger's apartments were compared, with prosecutors pointing out the differences and the defense pointing out the similarities. But the red doormat outside Jean's apartment is what prosecutors continue to bring up as something they argue was too obvious for Guyger to miss when she shot her neighbor, claiming she walked inside the wrong apartment. Prosecutors went over every possible defensive weapon on her police uniform belt she could have resorted to if Jean were an actual threat, including a taser, OC spray, and a knife. But an attorney for Guyger got a Texas Ranger to suggest those would not have been a trained officer's first option.
If an officer is faced with a deadly threat, which of these is an officer taught to use to address a deadly threat?
Deadly threat would be the handgun, the weapon.
After the state rested its case, the family of Botham Jean left the courtroom, now expecting to hear Guyger's side of the story in the coming days. And a crime lab expert also testified there was no blood found on Guyger's uniform, which suggests, according to prosecutors, that Guyger made no effort to save the life of an innocent man. Guyger is expected to testify at some point. With her argument that this was all a terrible mistake, legal experts say she has no choice if she wants to be acquitted. The defense will begin presenting witnesses in the morning. Live in Dallas, J.D. Miles, CBS 11 News.
All right, J.D., thank you very much. A former assistant district attorney is weighing in on some surprising testimony in the Amber Guyger trial. It's testimony that will never be heard by the jury. The lead investigator of the shooting said he did not believe that the shooting was a crime. Those comments were made yesterday. Our Steve Pickett joining us live now today with more on why the investigator made that assessment and new reaction to that assessment this afternoon. Steve, what are they saying?
Well, Ken, the ranger you speak of, his name is David Armstrong. He testified, as you mentioned, about this investigation of this shooting on yesterday, with his opinion about that shooting not being a criminal act in his view. It was not allowed by Tammy Kemp, the judge here, to be heard by this jury. In fact, the sworn affidavit seeking the arrest of Amber Guyger last year is written and signed by David Armstrong. He said then that Guyger committed manslaughter. It was a grand jury, however, that issued a murder indictment for Guyger last year in the death of Botham Jean. Former First Assistant DA Mike Snipes, I talked to him today. He says investigator Armstrong's new view would be and should be stopped in this case or in any case.
Well, and it shouldn't be part of the case. It would invade the province of the jury. The judge's decision was the correct one. Well, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Ultimately, this is for the jury to decide, and only the jury. That's why the indictment is not considered as evidence of guilt either.
Now, Armstrong said he formed this opinion after the completion of the Texas Rangers investigation into this shooting, the operative word here being opinion. It will not be allowed to, obviously, to go before this jury. As you know, the prosecution now resting. We are simply told the only people who can form an assessment in view of this case right now are the 12 people in that jury. Reporting live, Steve Pickett, CBS 11 News.
Steve, thank you very much for that. We learned today that court will be in session on Saturday so the defense can continue to call their witnesses. You're going to want to stay with CBS 11. As this trial continues to unfold, we're going to bring you the very latest on air and online. You can also watch the trial on our website, cbsdfw.com. We are streaming it there for you.
When you pulled your weapon at night and you fired, why did you fire?
So I was scared. I was scared this person's apartment was gonna hurt me. And I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
Ms. Guyger, could you please repeat your answer?
I was scared. Whoever was inside my apartment was gonna kill me. And I'm sorry. I have to
Sustained.
Now that you know, you found out when you came around that counter, you shot an innocent man. How do you feel about that?
No police officer ever would want to hurt an innocent person.
Again, I'm sorry. I can't understand.
Ms. Guyger, let's take a second to collect yourself before you speak.
Ready?
Please. Please.
How do you feel what you did to Mr. John?
I feel like a terrible person. I feel like a piece of crap. I hate that I have to live with this every single day of my life. And I ask God for forgiveness, and I hate myself every single day. I feel like I don't deserve the chance to be with my family and friends. I wish he was the one with the gun that killed me. I never wanted to take an innocent person's life. And I am so sorry. This is not about hate. It's about being scared that night.
Sustained. Mr. Shook, you want to ask your next question?
You said, I put the key in and I hear moving around. As the door began to open, I wanted to find the threat. As the door was opened fully, that's when you saw the silhouette.
Yes, sir.
So you knew from outside that door, with the protection of that door between you, that there was something inside that was making noise.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here were your options then. Your options were, at this point, to go in and find the threat, or your option would have been, I'm going to back off, I'm going to take a position of cover and concealment, and I'm going to get some help out here. Those are options, right?
They are.
Okay. But you chose option A, which was, I'm going in to find the threat.
It was the only option that went through my head. I was at home, and
Ma'am, will you answer my questions?
Yes, sir.
You chose to go in and find the threat even though you were in a position to have taken cover and concealment, right?
No, sir.
Your training, which you've told this jury several times now, that you revert to. You've told them that, right?
Yes, I have.
You rely on that training is what you've said.
Yes, I do.
That's why you pulled the gun when you pulled the gun, right?
Yes, sir.
That's why you keep your right hand empty.
Yes, sir.
That's why you backed your truck in, correct?
Yes, sir.
Because that's what police do, right?
Yes, sir.
But you're telling me at the most critical moment of the entire thing, your training just abandoned you.
No, sir.
No. Because your training says that when you're at this point here, for officer safety, to maximize your safety, do not go inside that apartment.
On a call.
Ma'am, your general orders indicate that you are on duty 24/7.
They do.
And you know that that training is designed for your safety, first and foremost.
Yes, sir.
And that's not only what your orders are, that's how you guys are trained.
Yes, sir.
So for your safety, you should have taken a position of cover and concealment and got help. And instead you decided to go in.
Yes, I did go in.
You had a police radio on you, didn't you?
I did.
Did it work?
It did.
You live 2 blocks away from police headquarters.
Yes, sir.
You know that when you call out as a police officer, the number one thing for every other police officer is to come and help you if you say that you need help.
Yes, sir.
You know that the response time on this call was about 2 minutes and bodies were at the apartment.
Yes, sir.
So you could have taken a position of cover and concealment. You could have called for help on your radio, and you could have had the cavalry there in 2 minutes.
I could have.
You could have had SWAT mobilized.
They could have.
You could have had K-9 mobilized.
They could have also.
Right. And had you done any one of those things, Mr. Jean would probably be alive today. Right?
Yes, sir.